What is going on, you guys? I'm coming to you today with another Nunchuck expansion preview. Today we're going to be taking a look at some of the rebels for this set. This set is going to be done very, very soon, and I will be having it up on Crabbok.com. I already did a preview of some of the Imperial titles. This is a title-only expansion, which kind of allows me to take a lot of these ships in different directions without necessarily making like an officer or turbo laser slot that could be used all the way across the board. So it definitely helps to to kind of fine-tune and be able to make something kind of incredible that's limited to only one ship. That being said, this is just a fan-made expansion. This is something I made. It's not anything official. It's not tournament legal. But if you're looking for something to play around with, hold you over until we actually get some new Armada stuff, maybe this is the ticket. So we're going to jump right in. Now, there are lots and lots of titles for every single ship. So I'm going to just take a look at a couple of them. First one is a CR90 title called Siphon. And this one is designed to allow you to kind of cannibalize your own ships in a sense. So this one is an expensive title at 8 points. And it says, when attacking, you may deal 2 damage to a friendly squadron at distance 1 to 2 to add 1 red die to your attack pool. So the idea here is this can, it's not super powerful, but for a CR90 that doesn't have a whole lot of offense anyway, I wanted to give a CR90 a little bit more offense, especially I have a title that could also be comboed potentially with a turbo laser slot, but it's got a lot of costs. For one, it's it costs 8 points, so it's very high, so you may not take this, but maybe you will. And also, if you take this title, you can't take something like Jaina's Light. For another thing is you're dealing 2 damage to a friendly squadron. Now, while that may seem like an awful lot, in some cases that's not that much. For example, like a Z95 only has 3 hull anyway, and it has a good chance of dying in a single shot. So depending on what you're up against as far as anti-squadron weaponry, whether it's other really good aces that are going to come in and just one-shot your squadrons anyway, then maybe it'll it's a better situation for you to do that. But it's something that you'll basically have to kind of take advantage. And the thing is, because this is when attacking, you could also do this for an anti-squadron shot. So there's a possibility there. Next up is Grayscale. Grayscale is another kind of expensive title for CR90s. Not all of them are this expensive. But this one is just a straight increase with a condition. It increases your hull value by 2 if this is your flagship. So I wanted to, CR90s aren't very defensible ships. They're kind of squishy. So I wanted to make one a little bit stronger, but also make it a bigger target. Because if it's your flagship, now, of course, obviously, people are going to be shooting at it a lot more. So you have to make it. There's a trade-off here. 2 hull is significant, especially for a small ship. This would make it one of the highest hull small ship in the game. But at the same time, it's going to be quite the target if it's got your commander on there as well. So depending on but sometimes you will put a commander like Radis, for example, will sometimes go on board a ship like CR90. But then again, at the same time, it's 7 points, so give or take, it was an idea to maybe defensify one of these guys without making it something that could just go all over the place. All right, Nebulon-B. Nebulon-B has a lot of work for it because Nebulon-Bs are probably one of the weaker ships right now. I still love them. I definitely do love Nebulon-Bs, but I don't see people taking them outside of Yavaris very much. So I wanted to give them some special attention. So here's one of the Nebulon-B titles, Anchorite. And all these names are subject to change. I'm letting people on Patreon select names for some of these, or vote on names if there's enough. So I'll be putting these up as well over there. So when defending against an attack targeting your left or right side, you may spend a rear shield to cancel 1 attack die. So, this is the biggest, weakness of the Nebulon, basically. And that is that, that 1 shield on the sides and no redirect. So rather than just straight up give it a redirect, which is also an option, I wanted to make it a little more decision making and potentially more powerful or potentially weaker. So this is, because the problem is if you have a redirect, you're still subject to accuracies and things like that. This one's a little stronger because a lot of times people don't target your rear shield. And if your rear shields do run out, you're not able to use this anymore. So it's definitely conditional from that perspective. But you have, you start with 2 shields on the rear, so you have, the ability to use this twice. If you do regenerate shields, that's great too. But being able to cancel an attack die is actually really, really strong, because you can combine that with your evade. This could be a very survivable ship, and it will also change the way that you fly it. It will certainly change the way your opponents have to approach it, because now all of a sudden your opponents may want to go for your rear first, which is ideal because your front is already pretty well defended. Your sides now become, potentially really well defended. Again, granted, a whole lot of dice coming at your sides is still going to be just, terrible. But being able to cancel 1 die on top of being able to use your evade and potentially brace as well, not half bad. Now we have another one here, and again, I have more than just these. This is just a preview. When a squadron that you activate attacks, if it's in your front arc, it may add 1 red die to its attack pool. So not exactly the same as Yavaris, but if you were looking to run multiples of these guys, it's something that you can potentially put with Yavaris if you wanted another carrier. But this one I just thought was kind of interesting, because this one is different, because this does allow your squadrons to move. As a matter of fact, it kind of rewards you positioning, a certain way. This way, if you are able to line up, because that front arc is kind of narrow, so now your squadrons that you activate can get an extra red die each. Especially if they're bombers, or if you have a bomber command center out there, you can make a lot of use of this. It doesn't even have to be that. It can be against anti-squadron stuff. You can do an awful lot with adding a die to a squadron's attack. Now, if they are bombers, that can also go against ships as well. So a lot of stuff. Again, this isn't meant to beat Yavaris. This is meant to be a totally different take, because this gives you some flexibility in that those squadrons can now move, but it's also a little more restrictive in that once they're doing their shooting, they would need to be in your front arc. They don't have to be completely in the front arc, but they will have to be in the front arc. So that is interesting. I think so. All right, let's keep going. Assault frigates. So let's look at some assault frigate titles. We have at the start of round 3 and 5, or rounds 3 and 5, you may move 1 shield to another friendly ship at distance 1 through 4. So Sparrow is only 4 points, and this is all letting you distribute some shields. It's basically being like a good support ship, saying like, here's a shield for you, and here's a shield for you. It's not a whole lot, but the thing is, it's a free way to distribute shields. You don't have to worry about your engineering teams trying to doing an engineer command to spend shields to throw them over here or to throw them over there. You could put this on maybe an extra assault frigate that doesn't have a whole lot of other upgrades, so maybe it's a low priority ship, so you're more than likely to have those ships remaining. And the other thing that is nice is that this can be shields on a far side. You have shields to spare on assault frigates, so this is kind of putting those shields to work elsewhere in your fleet. But again, you can only do it 2 times at round 3 and round 5. War Torn. When attacking, you may re-roll one of your accuracy results. Now, this one might seem a little weird at first glance, and this is meant to just kind of give a different flavor to these guys. So first off, this has natural synergy with Home 1, because if you roll a blank, you can turn it to an accuracy with Home 1 and then re-roll it. However, there's a lot of other things you can do. Like sometimes maybe you're running Intel Officer and you just don't want accuracies because you're just going to target their brace with Intel Officer. Or there are some times where you roll a lot of accuracies. I've had times where I roll like 3 red dice and they're all accuracies, and I'm like, wow, that's amazing, but also terrible. So being able to re-roll an accuracy is restrictive, but it's at least something. But I think another thing that really makes this one nice is against squadrons, if you're doing anti-squadron fire. And that's what this one's really meant to shine, is that it gives you a little bit better chance to be able to do damage to squadrons with your anti-squadron attack. So, that's kind of the flavor of this one. But it works on all of those attacks. So if you attack a ship and squadrons, it can apply to all of that. And if you were to get counter or something like that, it would apply to those attacks as well. So there's a lot of little combos and things that this can sneak in and help. It can also help maybe if you get disposable I said it again, disposable capacitors. Disposable capacitors are, Anyway, if you have disposable capacitors and you wanted to add some blue dice at long range, People don't really do that here that much, but you have more chance of rolling an accuracy, and if you had too many accuracies, it would help that as well. We're on to our MC30s. So MC30s, this is an expensive one. This is real expensive, but it's got potential. It's powerful. Exoblast. I don't know. Exoblast, right? It's the names are subject to change. It's not final yet, but yeah. So a 9-point title, kind of expensive, but their titles are expensive anyway. When you activate, you may discard this card. If you do, your black dice armament may be used at up to medium range this turn. So this guy is a big threat, and I had to make it expensive for this guy because they have black dice all around, and they have the upgrades to make those black dice very, very deadly. So here's a ship that can throw those black dice at medium range from multiple arcs wherever they want. Pretty nasty, especially if you combine, if you're running if you're running ordnance experts and one of the black crits in your ordnance slot. A lot of nasty stuff you can do with this card. So I don't and I had to make it a one-time use also. If it was every turn, it'd have to be even more expensive. The price might be able to come down a little bit, but it's just, you have to consider how much damage can you really do with this, and I think it's a lot. And at medium range, you're really, at long range would be just too much. But if you, at medium range, being able to roll all your black dice, with no restrictions beyond that, is pretty strong. But that would and that would certainly change the way that you were flying an MC30 as well. Ace. So Ace is a 5-point title. When attacking, if you roll no damage, you may discard this card to change all of your results to sides showing a critical. So this is kind of like a ship that Lando Calrissian would fly. And the idea here is that maybe you want to spend your ordnance experts to re-roll your black dice that show up as damage. So it's just in case you ever actually do roll all blanks, which is actually pretty rare considering black dice only have 2 blanks and you usually roll a lot of black dice. If this happens on your red dice, like if you're running the scout frigate, for example, you actually have a chance of rolling no damage. So this would be a way for you to, in those times it would only be 2 damage, which wouldn't be that bad. But if you happened to roll black dice also, well, now you have a really slim chance of actually rolling no damage. So that's why I made this one only 5 points, because the chances of it actually work, it's very, very likely you'll spend you could run this for like 2 games and it never trigger. But that one time it does trigger, it's going to be insane. But the thing is, you can't, you have to change all of your dice. So if you have those accuracies, the accuracies are going away. You're going to get like this masterfully big hit. And then, the problem is they can still potentially brace. So this one would be a good one to be like maybe your last shooter, so somebody's already spent their brace. And I'm doing a third MC30 title in this preview. There's lots of titles, but this one I thought was pretty interesting. It's a 0-point title, and this one's called Right Arm. You may put a second commander on this ship. This doesn't count as your flagship, and that commander only applies to this ship, and its cost is reduced by 9. So this means basically you could put a Mon Mothma on this ship. She would get a point cost reduction, but she only applies to this ship. Now there's certain commanders that would be kind of tricky on, as like as far as Radis. Radis wouldn't work. This is the type of title that's a little bit complicated and could require an entire FAQ, and I would have to write a whole bunch more with it. But I just can't fit all that on one card. So let's just, point out, Radis wouldn't really be able to do anything. Think of it as a bubble around this ship, that this commander's influence only applies to this ship. In the case of somebody like Dodonna, it would only apply to damage that this ship is dealing. It still wouldn't have the effect of an opponent, landing on a rock. But Dodonna's effect would apply to the damage that this ship does, and Mon Mothma would apply to this ship and only this ship. Akbar would apply to this ship and only this ship. So it's a way for you to kind of, take any commander that you're not using and put him on this ship, and at a point cost reduction. And that point cost reduction is going to count for victory points as well. But yeah, I think that's a pretty cool. It's a very different mechanic. It's something totally kind of outside of the box. So I like the idea of that. Leia on this ship. All right, now we're on this MC80s. The Aegis Maw. This is an expensive one. It's an 8-point title. And since one of the things that MC80 doesn't have is a slot for weapons teams, so they can't ever take gunnery teams or something like that. This one is a way to kind of combat that from a certain point of view without being overpowered. It's definitely strong though in certain contexts, and it says you may perform both of your attacks from the same arc so long as they're both against squadrons. So if you decide you want to attack. You want to flak against squadrons out this side and then flak against those same squadrons one more time, you can do that. But you wouldn't be able to attack a ship twice out of the same arc. So that much is nice. But what you couldn't do is I couldn't take my side arc, shoot a ship, and then take that same side arc and then shoot squadrons, because you can only do the same arc twice if both are against squadrons. So I think the wording is pretty clear. And yes, you can hit the same squadrons twice because if you didn't kill them the first time, they're still going to be there. So that's so I think that'd be fun, because the anti-squadron dice on an MC80 are not half bad. So if this will basically make sure that people want to steer clear of your MC80. Or put them close if their flagship or a really high value ship is getting close. Then you're safe putting your squadrons there, because now you force them to make a choice and they can't choose both. We have a Liberty MC80, Septipod. Septipod is I was thinking of the name that went into this one. I was thinking of like an octopus, but I didn't think that sounded good. And because I wanted it to cost 7, I'm like, well, how about a septipus? Because I think that was from Finding Dory. And I said, well, instead of septipus, how about a septipod, like a cephalopod? I don't know. That's where the name came up. But basically, squadrons you activate with heavy may treat critical symbols as normal damage symbols when attacking. So this one is, immense, because our Liberty MC80 doesn't do a whole lot of squadron commands. They certainly can, but generally they don't, all that much. They're not really seen as being the best carrier. They're typically seen as being that attack ship. So I want to give a little bit of extra option in case you did want to, because the Liberty title is all right, but I'm not really crazy about that. So this gives a whole bunch of different implications. For one, you may not. So one of the things that this can do is this can make your Y-wings, just have a better chance of actually being able to be anti-squadron. If we're tied up and my Y-wings are shooting your TIE fighters or whatever, well, now those blue crits are actually I can treat those as normal damage. So this can, if I'm keeping my bombers close by, the Y-wings, for example, can do some damage. If I am not using Y-wings, maybe I am using VCXs for objective. Now VCXs are harder to take now because relay really got nerfed. So in a lot of cases, people might just be taking them for strategic, and they're kind of expensive. So now all of a sudden, your VCXs can be a little bit more viable because if they're close to this guy. And Septipod is activating them, well, now they have a much better chance of actually doing damage, even to ships, but also to fighters. It won't be able to get out of control though, because it's just this one guy, and he's got a squadron value of like 2. So what is he gonna maybe at max be able to get 3? It's not so bad. That's not totally broken. If 3 VCXs actually roll 3 damage against the ship, it was 45 points, and I got 3 damage on you plus this 7-point title and a squadron command on a ship that probably should have done navigation, right? So it gives you some other options. I like that, but it also has the third, functionality of that. If somebody else brings intel in close, now all of your ships have heavy, and so now they can do some other stuff. So if you have some black die, or like if you had A-wings nearby and somebody brought their jump master in, gave all your A-wings heavy, now they roll that hit crit side, the A-wing can roll 2 damage against the ship. If first you had your own intel, and if it was somehow able to do that. So there are some combinations that can make this one really work as well, and that's kind of why the point cost is kind of high, because there's several different interactions that can really make this do very well. but generally it requires you to have certain squadrons to take advantage of it. So like you'd have to run Skirgs or Y-Wings and things like that. And that's great. You know, I have no problem with that. You know. And we have the Dynamite. So the Dynamite is a 5-point title. Before your first attack, you may flip a random damage card face up. If you do, add a red die to your attack pool when attacking a ship. So basically, these guys are using like high explosive ammunition, and if they cannibalize the ship a little bit, they can roll an extra die. But the thing is, at least that's kind of my lore here. The problem is this is circumstantial. Now, an extra die when attacking a ship is worthy of more than 5 points normally, but this one's awfully has awful limitations on it. First off, you have to have at least a one face down damage on your ship, and so you're not going to be able to do this early in the game. And so second off, you have to flip one face up, and it has to be random. So if you have a couple and you don't know what they are, which you're not supposed to know what they are unless you only have one and you've already flipped it, then you have a really good chance of getting something that says, oh, you may not attack at long range, and all of a sudden you can't even make that attack, and now you were at long range of your target, and now you have no attack. So this can potentially backfire as well. Which Dynamite can backfire, can blow up in your hand, right? So that's kind of how this is. Or it could kill you if you're close to death, and you're like, you know what? We are either going to kill them or they're going to kill us. It's the last turn. It's all or nothing. And then you go for it, and then you pull structural damage, and then it kills you, and you're done. All of those things could potentially happen. So this could be a really fun card to use. And I think fun is the name of the game. So it's a little restrictive, though. Now we got some Flotilla titles here for our GR75. We have the Surprise. You gain the Ordnance upgrade slot. Now, I costed this one a lot higher because I'm just giving a whole new slot to a type of ship that was never supposed to have anything like that. And so that is why it's at 7 points, because now all of a sudden you could put expanded armament or expanded launchers on here, and you're rolling 2 extra black dice out of the front against ships, and you have a scatter. So this is you could potentially have a ship that can do some decent damage now. But the other thing is, I think a little bit more reasonable is maybe you do external racks, and you can even do that against a squadron, or put it on your blue die GR75. And now when you do manage to attack somebody, you can roll 3 dice instead of just 1, or maybe even 4 dice if you did a concentrated fire. So it gives you a couple of options, and this also opens up the door to a lot of other future things. A lot of the stuff that's in here you probably would never take anyway. You're not going to take the black die crit cards, but this can give you dice on your sides as well, which could potentially combo with an Akbar fleet. So this could really open up a lot of doors. So 7 points for something that could potentially be huge. Wily Kit. I pulled a Thundercats name for this one, because this one's a little tricky. 4 points. At the end of the second round, you may spend a command token to move 1 objective token at distance 1 of 4 of you to within distance 2 of its current location. So kind of like how interdictors, or rather strategic, not interdictors, but kind of like how strategic squadrons can move tokens. This one can move a token, but only at the end of the second round. So I specifically did the second round because that's still kind of early. A lot of times, especially if you deploy far away from each other, or if you deploy slow, you don't necessarily start moving that fast. So this is going to force you to go kind of quick, and you're also going to be able to move it, but you're only going to be able to do it the one time. So this could be useful on moving a token. It can offset your need for strategic, which is great. It can help clear mines, can do a whole bunch of interesting things. So I like that. Kodiak, we're at a Pelta right here. We got some thunder going on in the background, so I'm sorry if you guys hear that. The Kodiak title is one of my favorites. And it's 7 points. It's expensive. I've done a lot of expensive ones just because we're doing like new mechanics and stuff, and I don't want them to be too cheap, because this one is very expensive. So other friendly ships at distance 1 to 2 may spend your defense tokens. Discard any tokens spent this way. So somebody that doesn't have a brace or gets an accuracy to the brace, they can spend your brace. Somebody that, you know, maybe your GR75 Flotilla is got an accuracy targeting that scatter, and it's just enough damage to kill it. You know what? They can use your thing to make them your evade to make them reroll or something like that. A Nebulon that doesn't have a redirect can now use your redirect, something like that. But the cost is there because you're running a full blown support ship at this point with the Kodiak, full blown support, and you're 7 points. And you're going to be able to... Now, the thing is, you can put like Whalix Ballistics on this guy to get one of those tokens back. So, there's ways to get these tokens back so that it's not all gone, but pretty cool being able to loan out. Just, I mean, in the same way that Janors can kind of do that for squadrons. Doom. Oh, thunder just struck as I said that. That's funny. For Caleb Doom, yes. So this is in honor of Kanan and his heroic sacrifice, right? For 5 points... Before you are destroyed, you may transfer any remaining shields you have to another friendly ship at distance 1 to 4 up to their maximum. So basically, if you go out, a lot of times the ship will be destroyed and it still has shields like on the other side. So if like somebody was able to get you from behind, all the rest of your shields can go and protect your allies is the kind of the idea for this one. So it puts those extra shields to good use. Well, I've got an MC75 title. So this is Dusk Viper. During the determined course step, you may suffer a face-up damage to gain 1 additional yaw. So, again, MC75s, they can go kind of fast. That extra yaw might be nice. It's a little bit of like a Jerjerrod kind of thing, but it's a little more steep of the cost because you have to take a face-up damage. Maybe you'll do this early and you can queue up an engineering command and take care of it later, or maybe you're seeing that, you know what? I can potentially land on that station, so there's ways that you can make this really work for you. Oh, now I can land on the station, get rid of that card, but hope it's not a structural damage, and then I take 2. So this happens during the determined course step. But obviously you're going to do this before you set your ship down. And that's just that's a little preview. So if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, enter the giveaway that I'm doing this month. It's running all month long for 3 X-Wing conversion kits. I will be announcing this towards the end of July. And we are so close to Gen Con. We're a month away. Are you guys excited? I am very, very excited. So stay tuned. And thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day.